In yesterday's video, I talked to you about the 8 things that you could do for your productivity in order to make you excel at creating this content. I said I would dive deeper into certain subjects, and well, today is that day. If you didn't see yesterday's video, I'm going to put it up here. You should actually check that out first. But today, we're going to talk about the analog capture side of those tips. I believe that this is one of the most important sides of doing any type of thing, but especially for content creation, because your brain is not designed to hold all of this information. It's designed for doing stuff. It's not designed for holding stuff. So your goal is to move this information into a place where you can then formulate it into better plans and then put those things into action. Today, we're going to talk about analog capture. This is really simple. It's just something that you got to do. Now, I'm going to give you some sort of guidelines, but you can do this any way that works for you. I think one of the first things when people think of analog capture, of course, is going to be something like, standard issue little notebook. I tend to like field notes, Moleskine.
Moleskine.
It's technically what is not moleskin, it's Moleskine. It's Italian. This is an old school Moleskine. And these are my other new favorites. These are Traveler's notebooks made by the Traveler's Paper Company. It's a sort of Japanese company, very, very popular in Japan. Now, you can use any sort of notebooks, including free ones that you get from your insurance guy or go to a conference, they give you free ones. But I like these particularly because I tend to like to write with fountain pens, and these all have papers that won't bleed. It doesn't have to be that fancy. It just has to be a good place where you can copy things down or write them when they come to mind. Another thing, as I've mentioned in the video yesterday, I like to use is these little index cards. I keep a couple in my wallet, which is why I like the business card size. I keep a couple in the wallet because if you ever need something and you may not have your notebook with you because you might have left it in the car, you always have these. So you always have a place to scribble something down. Now, here's a couple important steps before we get further into the individual pieces. You want to capture in as many ways as possible, but not so many that you can't manage them. So in other words, yes, I do carry these cards, but it can't be the only way, because if for whatever reason I don't have cards, I wouldn't want to be out of an ability to capture. I love capturing in these notebooks, but if I didn't have one, just grab a piece of paper from somewhere, rip a piece of paper off of a bag, whatever you need to do to get it out of your brain. What you don't want to do is say, I'm going to store this and I'm going to remember this later, because inevitably when you go to pull it back, you don't have it. One of my favorite places to do this stuff now is with my Plod Note voice recorder. This is sort of like Captain Kirk, Captain's log, star date, blah, 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 and going about your business. This just allows you to record these things in a great manner. This is cool because it has some AI processing that it can do with your notes after, but we're going to cover review and processing in a whole different video. But this is just another good capture tool. And the one that everybody has that they often forget about is your phone. And yes, you have Apple Notes inside here, or an Android, you have Google Notes, or whatever the heck it's called, I don't know. But you also have Voice Memo. And this is great. Another great one for the phone is something known as the Day One app. You can record in Day One app. There's drafts, there's bare notes, any way you could put things in here. I find that the analog capture to me is faster, but if you have your phone and that's all you got, you can absolutely do it with your phone. And I always like to remind people, you can shoot a quick video. I don't know how many people sit there and try to type copious notes, which is really hard to do on such a small keyboard. And the best thing to do is to just capture it with the camera. Just capture that as a video. You can process that later. I'll show you as we get further along in the series. I'll show you ways you can take the audio from a video that you captured and process that using a couple of different AI tools. So again, capture it as many places as possible, but as little as you can manage. So you got to make sure that you can get by with whatever you have. The most important step of this is just getting it out of your brain. I mentioned that before, but I want to come back to it because it never fails. And this is why I brought up in video yesterday. And again, I'll put that up in case you didn't see it. Oftentimes when you are doing a different task, a thought about another task pops in your head, and that's because you had that left over and it's playing on a rehearsal loop in your brain until you act upon it. So by getting it out of your brain and getting it on paper, that gives your brain space to think about what it's supposed to be thinking about, right? That's where the distraction comes from. Okay, now eventually you're going to take all of this stuff and you're going to transfer it to your permanent system. So this is why your capture method doesn't have to be super cute. This is a super old Moleskine, and look, show you how old it is. It has a manual for a Canon 40D. That's how old this sucker is. But it's just like, writing random notes that I come to later. At this particular time, these were some notes for a shoot that I was doing. So I just jot down some notes. Those get transferred during your review process into something a little bit more established, something that you can sort of sort and organize and be able to find later. This is literally about just a jot spot, a place to get things out of your head so that your head is open to do something else. Now, the most important thing to understand about this analog capture system is it's only effective when you clean it out. And what I mean by that is that process, which we'll cover in the review section of the video when we get to that. You need to get it out of your capture system and into your permanent system. When you do your review process, normally I calendar and do it like one day a week. That is where you're going to move all of those ideas into some place where you can act upon them. Now, there'll come times where you have to do it at the end of the day, but normally you just pick a time and view the week, you grab all your little scraps of paper, you sit down and you organize them in your permanent system. When I get to the notes section, I'll talk more about this because it's the concept of when you were in school, you were taking all your notes, writing little stuff in the margin, so forth, so on, etc. But when you got ready to turn in the paper, as OGs, we had to write that in a composition book. The composition book was clean, no notes, no margins, no doodles, no Aerosmith stickers. It was literally super clean, and that's where you wrote your actual pages or papers that you turned into the teacher, and you would turn in that one particular composition book. Your loose leaf notebook was for all of the scribing and just coming up with the stuff and writing down your footnotes and the whole 9 yards. It's a very similar process to that. You're going to collect all of this stuff on your smaller capture systems, and then you're going to come back to it. So in a nutshell, it's pencil and paper, Post-it notes, kind of the worst, but they work. Something that you like, something easy to carry, something you can have with you at all time. Apple Watch has a voice recorder. Phone has a voice recorder. I like the Applaud voice recorder because it's easier to do stuff with it once it's in this format. And just find a pencil and paper that you love. So in a nutshell, that is the capture system. It's a place to jot things out, and then we'll deal with it later. It's just to free your mind, and the rest will follow. This has been the first and what's probably going to be a 4-part system. I'm going to talk about the capture side. I'm going to talk about the note side, and then I'll talk about the calendar and task management side at the end, how you organize all this stuff in order to become the production system that you need in order to get more stuff done. This has been another video in my Nice to Know, Nice to Have November series. And this was recorded on Thanksgiving Day. So I just want to say I'm thankful for all of you guys who clicked on this video and watched it. If you know somebody needs to hear this, make sure you share it with them. I am on a mission to get to 20,000 by the end of the year. And I can't do that unless you share it with folks. Now, I got to go eat because it's Thanksgiving. And right now, the algorithm is going to show you a video that they think you should watch. And I absolutely agree with them.
I need to know everything. Who and the what and the where. I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George. I hop in the Porsche, 5 and a horse. I'm ready for war. I'm coming for throats to turn to a ghost. I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet.